The SuperBook Sports Podcast is back in your life, and trust me, we will never miss a game-winning field goal. Ron Kruck joined by the men behind the counters at the SuperBook at the Westgate in Vegas. Veteran odds makers and the best in the business, Jay Kornegay and John Murray. All right, guys, busy show. Let's get right to it. Jay, you get the honors. How did the big weekend of college and NFL action go for the SuperBook?
It was a great weekend for us, Ron. Saturday, as you know, plenty of upsets up and down the slate as we saw some popular teams go down. Obviously, one of the big ones actually was Michigan against Hawaii. That was on later in the day, and usually most public bettors stay away from those type of point spreads. They don't like laying those type of points, but they did in that case, and with them scoring and covering, that was one of the bigger decisions on Saturday for us. Wow. Again, Alabama, Texas was also a big win for us, as Alabama was bet on for the first half. They were bet on the game, and we're on the right side of that one as well. So Saturday was a huge win for us. Sunday, I'll let John go into a little bit, but I think some of the scores might be misleading. A lot of people think, wow, you must have done really well, but we did. We won more games than we lost, but we lost the two biggest decisions of the day. Ravens and Jets was the biggest decision of the day. And then, of course, whenever the books lose a big Sunday night game, I can almost guarantee you that's going to take away a majority of the profits or give us a loss for the day. So with the Bucks covering against the Cowboys, which was an easy cover, a boring game, unfortunately, but brutal. That was really a bad game for us. And Sunday we ended up just a small winner.
Well, and you said that Monday night was going to be boom or bust for the book, and the positive scenario would be if the Seahawks won outright. Well, you can thank the Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett for accomplishing that goal, as Denver wasn't able to get that win. But John, the dogs, man, were barking this past weekend, of course, on Monday Night Football, as I just mentioned. But not only did several underdogs cover, but many won outright. And just once again, the opening week of the NFL was crazy. We saw a lot of point total unders cash in big time too. Give us the details, man.
Seattle was huge for us, but what we really needed on Sunday was we needed one of those other big favorites in the morning to lose. The Colts tied, so all those money line parlays were pushes. And then Atlanta, I don't know how they lost the game, but they did. They somehow managed to blow a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter. That really hurt us that they didn't. And Jay already said it. The biggest one was Baltimore. That was our biggest decision of the week in the NFL, and then we lost big on the Buccaneer game. So we did okay Sunday, but it wasn't the day that I think maybe people thought it was going to be for us. We just even the Green Bay Minnesota game in the afternoon, that looks like the kind of game that would be good for the books. Green Bay, the popular road favorite, at least they were all week. But actually, the wise guys were all over Minnesota, pushed the Vikings to a 2-point favorite, and the public was on Minnesota here, which was shocking. We had more tickets on the Vikings than Green Bay, which didn't make much sense to me, but everybody was right about that game. Minnesota wins easily in that game. Justin Jefferson was incredible, and we didn't do too well. But look, overall, it was a good weekend. We did awesome on Saturday. We did great on Monday Night Football. Sunday, we just felt like we left some money on the table.
Got it. And if you had the guts to take the Giants or Steelers or Bears on the money line, I mean, that's well done. Those teams were big dogs, and not only won outright, but they beat playoff teams from last season. So
Giants was a really big one, Ron. Giants in the afternoon. That was our biggest afternoon game for sure.
Got it.
A lot of people were on Tennessee, both minus the points and on the money line in parlays. Giants, that was a great win. I love the guy going for 2, the new head coach there, Brian Dable. That was great.
Yeah.
So that really was maybe our best game of the day in the NFL was Giants-Titans.
Yeah, on Betting with the Barbers, powered by SuperBook, Tiki Barber was extremely proud of his Giants, and his brother Rondé pointed out, well, it was kind of the Tennessee Titans collapse that gave you that win. But as usual, expect the unexpected in week number 1. Quickly, John, I know you had the best seats in the house at UFC 279. Yeah. Back in the day when I covered the UFC, that was always a gong show when a card implodes like UFC 279 did, but give Dana White and the UFC credit for reshuffling and putting together some really entertaining matchups. My man Nate Diaz got a big victory. I saw that one bettor put a $30,000 bet on Diaz to pay back 31.5. But how did the book do with UFC 279?
That was great. It was our best handled UFC event of the year. Wrote a lot of money on the main event, a lot of money on the co-main event. Won a few, lost a few. We did lose to that Diaz player, but we had a lot of money on Tony Ferguson too. And I was happy to see Chimaev win because we were taking all kinds of underdog money line bets on Kevin Holland in the co-main event.
Wow.
He got steamrolled about a minute into that fight, so that was a very easy win for us. But great event. I give the UFC a lot of credit. They're very innovative there. You know, they don't just shrug their shoulders and say there's nothing we can do. They were problem solving. They found a way to move the parts around, made the event actually better than the original card. The card that they built was better than the one they had planned. So it was a fun night to be there. It was great. It was great to be back at T-Mobile for a UFC event. It was great to see that kind of handle on a UFC event.
Absolutely. Yeah, it looked incredible. It's just had that big fight feel back in Vegas, which was incredible too. So, well, we look ahead now to week number 2 in the NFL, and they're really opening up with the main event as 2 AFC West powerhouses and Super Bowl favorites collide in Arrowhead Stadium as the Chargers travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. The road team in this series has won the last 4 meetings. It's Mahomes versus Herbert. Current odds from SuperBook. The Chiefs, a -4 favorite. Total is at 54 right now. Jay, give us your thoughts on the marquee matchup.
Well, I'm right with you there, Ron. I'm an AFC West guy, so this is going to be a game of interest for me as we see most likely the top 2 teams face off in the AFC West. I know Bronco fans, I get it. You know, they'll be there too when it's all said and done. But yeah, Ron, you know, by the way, you opened up and said, well, we're not going to miss a game-winning field goal. I looked that up. I think there were 11 missed field goals in week 1.
Insane.
That is crazy. And there was only 1 kicker that was fired. But anyway, that's a lot of missed field goals. I think there was 5 or 6 extra points that were missed. So
did they take the preseason off too? I don't get it.
Yeah, something was up with that because you just don't see that. You see that on Saturdays. You don't see that on Sundays. But a lot of like shanks. It wasn't just like they barely missed. A couple of them hit the pole, upright. But others were just pure shanks. Wow, it was just terrible.
Brutal.
But this game, it's going to be a great game. I'm very excited to see this. It's open 3. We opened at 3, in May. We opened the total back in May at 53. So I give our guys a lot of credit. Look what we're looking at. We opened 3 on Sunday. By Sunday night, it was 3.5. And then yesterday, the whole market went to 4. And now I just noticed there's a 4.5 there. So it looks like it's creeping up to 4.5. And I guess that makes sense. Chiefs at home. Chiefs were very impressive week 1. So it wouldn't surprise me to see this thing, the whole market goes to 4.5 by kickoff. And the books, of course, are going to need that underdog to come through once again. Most likely outright win would probably be best for us, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, the Chiefs have won 6 straight home openers. John, any thought on this AFC West matchup?
I guess somebody at Amazon Prime's got a lot of juice if they got this to be their first game of the season. This is like for a Thursday night game. This is an incredible game. These are 2 of the best teams in the entire league. We did see there was some money that I respected on Sunday night, laid Kansas City -3, -120. And we went to 3.5 off that bet. Now we're at 4. Jay's right. We're seeing 4.5 out there. So there was some sharp money on Kansas City right away, right when we put this thing up Sunday night. Chiefs were very impressive on Sunday. But let's see how much of that is Arizona. I don't know why Arizona gets all this hype every year. Kingsbury just keeps getting passed up the coaching ranks for reasons that they're unclear to me, but we'll see. We'll see how good Kansas City is in this game because I know how good the Chargers are. They're great.
John, I forgot about that. So this game will not be available on DirecTV?
No,
This is the first Amazon Prime game, so that's It's not a
I thought it was
Unless you're in
gonna be on-
Kansas City or
Right.
LA.
All right. Okay. Because I thought it was going to be on both, but
It's
you're
not a
saying it's
coincidence
just-
that this is the Thursday night game to start the. I mean, this
Yeah.
this is a hell of a game. I think last year the week 2 Thursday night game was Giants against the formerly known as Redskins team. I don't recall what their name was that season,
Can't
but
say.
I mean this is a real upgrade. Obviously, and I'm sure Amazon was pushing for this.
Yeah, they got some powerful backing, John. So you could take that quick trip down to LA from Vegas if you want, if you don't want to get prime and catch the game. But I think you'll be all right. From a massive matchup in the AFC West to big time heavyweight clash in the NFC South. Tom Brady leads his Bucs into New Orleans to face the Saints. Tampa Bay guys beat down Dallas Sunday night, as you said, Jay, a very boring game, while New Orleans somehow survived against Atlanta. And as you mentioned, John, Atlanta finds a new way to lose again. Current odds from SuperBook, the Buccaneers come in as the favorite on the road. They are -2.5, and the over-under is at 44. John, break this one down for us.
There's not a whole lot to report yet. Obviously, it's a little early in the week, but really, it's right where we opened it, side and total. There's no real sharp action at the counter to talk about yet. I guess we got this one right in the opinions of the sharper bettors we have. Very interesting game. New Orleans rallied, we'll say, to beat Atlanta on Sunday. I don't know what Atlanta's doing. I don't know. Like, how do you have different coach and different quarterback, and it's the same thing that just happens to you for 10 plus years? I don't know how they could possibly lose that game, but a good win for New Orleans. And the Bucs, we don't know what to make of them yet. Their offense really didn't have to do anything on Sunday night in that game against Dallas. That's not going to be the case in this game, I don't believe. So we'll learn a lot about both these teams, I think.
Yeah, Fournette just ran all over them. Jay, what are your thoughts on the Bucs and Saints?
I was just looking at, even though John's right, we haven't really seen any sharp action. The total did drop down a couple of notches. Way back when we had this total at 47, we open on? Let's see, open 47.5, dropped down to 45.5, and then all of a sudden all the way down to 44. So the market has moved on that under, which I guess makes sense because I don't know, the Saints were kind of. I know they moved the ball here and there, but I know their running backs were not involved. They're going to have to be able to run the ball a little bit here. But we're going to see. We haven't talked about this, but week 2 is overreaction, right? Overreaction week. And I know a lot of people take, week 1's action and results and really parlay that into week 2. And we all know you shouldn't do that. It's the NFL. Things change. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see some of these teams that really got a lot of hype over the last couple of days, see what they do on Sunday.
I learned from week number 1 in my survivor pools, I'm going to take my bye week moving forward on week number 1 and just get it out there, because every week number 1, something crazy, and there seems to be upsets galore. So that's my new philosophy.
Nice.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
like,
you.
yeah, well, I bought a couple of mulligans myself. So.
Well done. All right. And, just to put a ribbon on that game, the Saints have owned Brady since he got to Florida. He has not won against New Orleans, going 0-4. All right, let's move on to game number 3. The Patriots traveling to Pittsburgh, take on the Steelers. The Patriots lost in South Florida as usual in week 1. They look to rebound against the Steelers team that upset the Bengals, but they did lose TJ Watt. Current line from superbook.com has the traveling Patriots as the 1.5-point favorite. The total is sitting at 40.5. Jay, how has the TJ Watt injury affected this line, if at all?
Well, it did move up. I mean, we had it pick 'em, Sunday night, and the next morning, we opened up at 1.5 on the Patriots, and it just creeped up to 2.5 now. And part of that is TJ's injury, but I think we were all expecting that. Other than that, we haven't really seen a lot of action yet. We do see the market of a lot of 2s. We do see some 1.5 still, so we're definitely on the high side. We're not a believer in the Patriots. We just think that it's going to be moving that way by the time we get to game time. You know, pretty interesting, new settings here for both New England and Pittsburgh. We'll have to see what they, bring into the second week. But right now, very little to report on this game.
Okay. Yeah, it's not often New England goes 0-2. John, quick thoughts on the Patriots and Steelers.
I think it's weird to see that as a 10 a.m. game. That's always one of the biggest regular season games of the year. Pittsburgh and New England. Pittsburgh had no business beating Cincinnati last week. I mean, no way they should have won that game. The kicking woes from the Bengals because of the snapper, the turnovers by the Bengals. There's no way that Pittsburgh should have won that game. We'll see what happens this week. New England needs a win now, so there was some sharp money. New England -1.5, at least here at the SuperBook, because like Jay said, there's still other places still have 1.5. So the market is moving very slowly on that game.
All right. Well, then that leads us to a couple of other teams looking for their first win of the season when the Arizona Cardinals travel to your hometown, guys, Vegas, to take on the Raiders, who fought hard against the Chargers, just came up short. I guarantee, and I'm sure you can agree that Allegiant Stadium and the SuperBook at the Westgate will be rocking with silver and black as they welcome in the Cardinals. The current odds as of this recording, Vegas, the 5.5-point favorite at home, and the over-under point total is at 51.5. John, you got the honors.
That should be an interesting game. The Raiders, they battled against the Chargers last week, and now they really need this game against Arizona at home. We opened this number maybe a little bit too low. There were some people laying 3.5 and 4 early in the week. We're at 5.5 right now. I think it's disrespect to the Cardinals and from the sharp bettors, because sharp guys were all over Kansas City last week. Chiefs steamrolled the Cardinals, and now they're on the Raiders this week. I think it's more of an indictment of the Cardinals than anything else. I think that the sharp guys are just anti-Arizona.
Yeah, they looked horrible. There's no doubt about it. Blitzed Patrick Mahomes all day, and it didn't really work out for him. Jay, what are your thoughts as the Cardinals travel to Vegas?
Well, I agree with John. We opened up the game too low. We had 3.5, and the next morning we're at 4.5. It gets all the way up to 6 yesterday, and now settles in at 5.5. But this isn't the public betting it. This is the market, some sharps up there, some educated play. And I agree with John that they're betting against the Cardinals rather than for the Raiders, even though this is a huge game for the Raiders. They have, visions of them competing for the AFC West title and to open it up 0-2. And with one of those games being at home against the Cardinals, this is a big game. I'm not going to say it's a must win, but it's a huge game for the Raiders if they're going to contend in the AFC West.
Yeah, well put. That goes for the Broncos as well. You fall down 0-2, and you're in a big hole in the AFC West. Some old school divisional rivalries this week, including the Bears and Packers. Not many guys would have thought it would be the Bears coming to Lambeau Field undefeated and the Packers looking for their first victory of the year, but that's the storyline in this one. Jay, the Pack, big-time favorites, according to SuperBook, -10 right now. Point total is 42.5.
Yeah, this game really hasn't moved too much. We opened 9 on Sunday, and next morning we moved it up to 10 as everybody went to 10 there. I think the Packers are going to be an interesting study this year with, the new look receivers, and I know Lazard's not quite healthy yet, but looking at those receivers, what Rodgers has, whether it's Dodds or Watson, Cobb's still there. He's been there for 15 years, but he has nobody to throw to right now. He has not found a go-to guy, and I think it's going to be very interesting if they can't run that ball. Because I think Jones is a great back. I think Dillon's a adequate second hand there, but it's going to be interesting if Rodgers and those receivers are going to be able to click, because they looked totally lost last Sunday, giving up 10 points. I'm not a big believer in the Bears, but I think the Bears could be one of those teams that gets a lot of momentum. They were certainly happy at the end of that game last Sunday, as they were very celebratory on the field there and act like they won a playoff game. But I think there's such a young group out there that they really could get, if they get a little bit of confidence and are able to hold Rodgers down a bit, which I think they could do that going into Green Bay. I could see their confidence growing throughout this game and make this thing close.
Man, that would blow some things up, I'm sure, if the Bears were to pull off the upset. I loved how you brought up the receivers. Everyone said new receivers going to new teams struggle, but Devontae Adams and guys like Tyreek Hill did not. They exploded in the first week of the NFL season. Your take on the Bears and Packers, John?
Does that Bears win against San Francisco really count? I mean, with those field conditions last week, we could bring in our social media guy, Hoagland, and see what he thinks, but I don't think that win should count in the standings. It was very unfair to the 49ers. I don't know. The Bears have a lot to prove to me. Justin Fields has a lot to prove to me. Whatever happened in the second half of that game in that rainstorm, we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they'll look great on Sunday night. Very sharp bettors under in this game. This total's gone from 44.5 to 42. Some sharp players in New Jersey, some sharp players in Nevada at the SuperBook are on the under here. So they're expecting another low-scoring game. They're not expecting much from Green Bay's receivers, and they're probably expecting from Justin Fields what I'm expecting. So it doesn't look to be the most entertaining game.
Yeah. Fields, I think, surprised a lot of people, but on that long touchdown pass, I mean, I think, John, you could have thrown that one rolling to your left.
I don't know about that. No, I don't
Give
think
the
so.
man a shot.
Yeah.
All right.
Jay maybe could have.
Jay.
All right.
Yeah,
No doubt.
100%. There's no doubt.
I didn't even see the play you're talking about.
He was so wide open. I
Yeah.
mean, he rolled out, threw it. I mean, how
just-
about this? If Jay threw it, I could have caught it and ran into the end zone.
I got you.
That's how wide open it was. But
Okay, fair enough.
we will see. That's the Bears and the Packers, and we end week number 2 with the second half of a Monday Night Football doubleheader. The Minnesota Vikings travel to the city of brotherly love to face the Eagles. Both teams 1-0 after the Vikings took out the Packers. Eagles took care of the Lions, a little bit more difficult as the Lions get another backdoor cover. But John, will come to you. Eagles are the slight home favorites, giving 2.5 points, and the over-under is at 50.
It's not really a doubleheader on Monday. The first game's at 4:15 local out here. The second game's at 5:30, which is kind of weird.
That is weird.
It's not good for business. It's not good for betting. It's not going to be good for TV ratings.
Yeah.
I don't know. Somebody should be fired over that.
I'll work
Minnesota +3 got some sharp money for sure. So you see us. We've moved down to 2 here. Eagles -2. The +3 got snapped up. We had a guy bet us 30,000 under 51.5 in this game, and we've seen our total move down. We got as low as 49, but saw some sharp play over 49, moves us up to 49.5. So a lot of action on this game, side and total. I wish it was a little bit later in the day, Jay. I wish it was a true doubleheader because that's a lot better for business.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, isolated games are the games that we really enjoy out here because of the concentration and the action that those type of games, that type of scheduling creates, and to have them right on top of one another is terrible. It's like the baseball playoffs sometimes, doesn't it? That drives me nuts when they play at the same time. This is exactly what they're doing. They shouldn't be doing this, but I do like the double headers. If it's a true doubleheader, I'd love 2 games on Monday. I think it's pretty exciting, but not at the same time. This game, I do believe the total is going to go back up. We were up at 51.5 at one time. We're at 49.5. I expect it to go up. I think these are 2 great offensive teams. I think that both teams have great offensive lines. They have a lot of threats. I think they're going to score a lot of points in this game. I'm surprised it's under 50 right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it closes 51.5, 52. Sidewise, I'm kind of a believer in the Eagles a little bit. I do like Jalen Hurts this year. I think he has a lot of weapons there. And their offensive line is probably the best in the league. So I know the Vikings would have something to say with that, about that, as they're a great offensive team there. And that's probably why I'm kind of leaning towards the over here.
Well, Kirk Cousins doesn't usually shine in prime time. 2-9 all time on Monday Night Football. So that might be a factor. But hey, you know what? If they can't figure out a doubleheader, maybe that just means you're going to have a huge crowd at the SuperBook at the Westgate, because you need all those TVs to check out the games. So let's push for that. John, let's talk about some big money and some big wagers. We talked about last week the Nate Diaz big bet came in there, but as always, you guys take some massive wagers on the NFL. Has SuperBook received any big tickets on the NFL for week number 2?
Yeah, the really big bets are going to come in later in the week on the NFL, on college football. We've got the Canelo Alvarez Gennady Golovkin fight Saturday.
Yeah.
We'll see some bigger tickets this weekend. So far, the main ones, I talked about the 30,000 under in the Philadelphia game. I'll give you one more. Guy bet 30,000 under in your game, Broncos Texans. I thought that was interesting because obviously we all watched the game on Monday night. Denver should have scored a lot more points. Who fumbles the ball at the goal line twice? You know,
Broncos.
Denver really should have won that game pretty easily. And there's no way that they should have only scored. I think they scored 16 points. So that was kind of interesting to me to see that. You got to think Denver is gonna win decisively on Sunday, Ron. I'm not trying to jinx anything.
You say interesting. I say frustrating.
Easy.
I'll be rooting for Denver for a variety of reasons that I can't get into on the air. But I'll just be rooting for Denver to win the game straight up for some reason.
All right.
And they really should. There's no way Seattle should have won that game. I don't know how the play calling. I don't know what Nathaniel Hackett was doing at the end of the game. It was breathtaking to watch.
It was. And Peyton Manning's reaction was the best as he's sitting there saying they'll take a timeout, take. I mean, isn't that why you brought Russell Wilson in? They showed the fact of how many fourth quarter comebacks he has had. So, okay, we digress here. We need to look ahead and not look back. But I appreciate you jumping on the Broncos this weekend. Big weekend of football, of course. So get to superbook.com before kickoff. Sign up today, download the app, and get in on the game. Right now, SuperBook is offering some great sign-up bonuses, odds boosts, and of course, for the latest and greatest wagering news, original content, and special promotions and bonuses, make sure you are following us on all social media platforms at SuperBook Sports. Well, the Ultimate Football Handicapping Challenge, the Super Contest, kicked off this past weekend as contestants are battling for a massive end-of-the-year payout and 11 in-season contests this year. Jay, give us the numbers. How many people got into the Super Contest this year, and break down how contestants fared in week number 1.
Well, Ron, we had 1598 in the Super Contest.
Nice.
And we had a nice little rush at the end of the sign-up period. We saw a variety of results around town. I got to tell you, because we had 1598, and I'm going to tell you, we have never gone into week 1 where a contestant failed to submit their very first week of selections. And this time, this is the first time ever. I've been running the contest, since 2004. We always had a group of people that didn't submit their first week's picks, but this year they all got them in. So it was amazing. As far as the Super Contest Gold, we had 80 contestants there, with the winner will collect $400,000. And so a big prize on the line for the Super Contest Gold. So great year for the contest, and we're off and running there.
Absolutely. We used to, if someone didn't get their lineup in fantasy football in back in college back in the day, and we knew it on Saturday night, you just try to get the guy drunk so he would forget to do it. I mean, that should be the approach with the Super Contest too, but I guess they're not taking that approach this year. It's great numbers. Glad to have so many people involved, and we'll keep track of this contest throughout the year. All right, guys. Before we get out, let's do some rapid fire and talk about some college games. I mean, a triple header of upsets last week that included Appalachian State knocking off Texas A&M as a 17-point underdog. My favorite game of the week, Georgia Southern's win at Nebraska as 23.5-point underdogs. and Marshall winning outright at Notre Dame. That was a lot of fun too. Let's get right to it. Game number 1, number 12 BYU travels to Oregon to take on number 25. The line right now, guys, is Oregon -3.5. The over under at 58. BYU looks to build off that massive win over Baylor. There've been some movement on this line. John, give us the details.
BYU just plays a brutal schedule, Ron. I mean, every week it seems like they're in a big game. They got a trip to Las Vegas coming up in a few weeks, take on Notre Dame at Allegiant Stadium. They've got a really tough schedule. We got Oregon -3.5, down a little bit from -4. Saw some people take BYU +4. Saw some people take BYU last week against Baylor. They were a little fortunate there. They covered that game in double overtime. But BYU, Oregon, as good of a game really as there is in college football this weekend. These are two pretty solid teams. I mean, Oregon, I know they got just demolished in week 1 by Georgia, but that's going to happen to a lot of people that play Georgia this season.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't worry too much about that.
All right, game 2, Big Ten versus SEC. Number 22, Penn State traveling to Auburn. Penn State has beat and covered in their first 2 games. Auburn hasn't looked great. They've won, but they didn't cover against San Jose State and Mercer. Current line we have is Penn State -3, over under 48. Any movement in this game on the spread or total?
It's really sharp guys on the under here. They went under 49 and 48. We're at 47. The action on the side is very split. Still at Penn State -3. Looks to be a pretty heavily bet game in the afternoon. 2 really premium programs. This should be one of our better handle games of the day in college football. 2 coaches that could use a win like this. These are 2 guys that could really use a marquee win here. It looks to be a low-scoring game, at least according to our wise guys.
Great point. Absolutely. And then maybe the marquee matchup of the day, the Aggies from Texas A&M look to bounce back after that shocking upset to Appalachian State. They take on a very talented Miami team that's ranked at number 13, but they're taking up a big jump up in the level of competition that they have faced. Texas A&M, is the favorite here at -5.5, point total at 45, or that's where it opened. We've seen some movement, a little bit of movement in the spread, but guys, the total, John, has definitely jumped. Talk about that.
Yeah, we've seen the total come down quite a bit. We had this thing assigned at 47.5. We're at 45 right now. Everybody's on Miami. You know, it's early in the week. We're talking on Wednesday afternoon about a Saturday night game. Everybody's on Miami. I heard Max Johnson's been getting some reps with the number 1s in College Station. Here's my question, Ron. Who scheduled Appalachian State for the who would do that? I mean, you already have a non-conference game against Miami, so you're good. You're non-conference. No one is going to criticize you if you're in the SEC and you're in the SEC West, which is by far the best division in college football by a mile every year, and you're playing Miami, and you go out and schedule Appalachian State. Why would you do such a thing? Of course they should have won that game, but
someone who doesn't know history.
That was poor work, very poor work. It looks like we're going to need Texas A&M, though, because the public, they like Miami. I can see why.
Yeah. All right. So that's a lot of action in that one. Jay, before we wrap things up, any other college games that are getting your attention?
That's funny. I'm wondering if Texas A&M is going to have a pep rally this week. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was very interesting. A couple of games. I know that we're keeping an eye on Louisiana Tech at Clemson. It's a later start, and that game's already gone up from 32 to 34. Sharps laid it there, and I know the public's going to be on Clemson because it's Clemson and it's a late start, so probably going to need Louisiana Tech there. Some movement on that Cal Notre Dame game. What's his name? Tyler Buckner, right? It was out. Yeah, he was announced out. So that line went from 12.5 down to 9. Sharps laid it back up to 11. Oklahoma, another game that has interesting movement over the last couple of days, opened 13.5, and the Sharps bet it down to 11. And I know what that is. That's the new coach, a change of coaching staff. They tend to play pretty well, teams after a firing like that so early in the season. Team seems to rally in most cases, not all cases, but that's the reasoning why you see the number drop. And then a couple of sharp plays that have moved some big lines. Buffalo at Coastal Carolina, 18 down to 14. You had Ohio at Iowa State. That opened 21 down to 18. So some pretty good early moves, significant moves, most of that sharp action.
Well, we saw some major upsets last weekend. We'll see if that trend continues as the college football season rolls on. Guys, great job as always. That's going to do it for another episode of the SuperBook Sports Podcast. If you like what you hear, and I'm sure you did, take a second to like, rate, and subscribe to SuperBook Sports Podcast. Is available on Spotify and Apple Music. And as always, please follow us on social media at SuperBook Sports. Guys, before we kick off another huge weekend of sports, any final thoughts, Jay?
No, I'm looking forward to it. Don't overreact to what you saw week one. It's a reboot weekend, and take the week one results with a grain of salt.
John?
Yeah. So I totally agree with Jay. This happens every year. Everyone makes these sweeping decisions after they watch week one. If you remember week one last year, Green Bay lost to New Orleans. They scored 3 points. And there were people literally saying, we think Rodgers might be intentionally sinking the season because he's mad at Green Bay. And then he proceeded to win an MVP and lead Green Bay to the best record in the NFC. So you don't want to overreact too much to 1 week. And you want to hang in there on your Survivor contest, Ron. Don't beat yourself up. That was an incredibly hard week for Survivor. That's the hardest week one I've ever seen in Survivor. It was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I took the Colts. I felt good about it. I was going back and forth between Baltimore and the Colts. Went with the Colts. Foolish. I'm telling you, I'm just taking my bye week from moving forward. I mean, but it's half the league is already, strike one. So
I don't think you're even allowed to do that. I mean, I don't know. I want to know what Survivor contest you're in where you can just say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to take the week off. I don't know. I could do well in that league. I'd be good.
Yeah. It's you want it to prolong throughout the season is my guess. But hey,
Mulligans,
you know what? Tie
mulligans.
Yeah, exactly. Mulligans. Doesn't a tie count as a win? I mean, doesn't everybody get a trophy these days? Come on. Maybe not.
True.
All right.
Probably true.
Guys, enjoy a huge weekend at the SuperBook at the Westgate. Great job. Thanks. We will talk to you again next week. For our entire crew and my partners in the desert, Jay Kornegay and John Murray, I'm Ron Kruck. Enjoy a massive sports weekend.